for joining us today on Playing the Field. I'm Maria Serrao. We are here today at the Long Beach Grand Prix as the 2018 Indy Car season is underway. Now, last year, Schmidt-Peterson driver James Hinchcliffe, one of our favorite drivers, won this race. So what will it take for him to win back-to-back here at Long Beach? I have a feeling James is going to tell us. Let's take a listen. So back-to-back wins, James?
That would be kind of awesome. It's only happened 4 times in history, and those 4 are...
You looked it up.
Mario, kind of a big deal. Al Jr., also a big deal.
King of Long Beach.
Paul Tracy, fellow Canadian, also a big deal. And Sebastian Bourdais, 4-time champion, really big deal.
Sebastian Bourdais still racing. He's not going to give you any pointers, is he?
No, and it's because he came second last year, so he was like, he nearly got it, and then he could have done it, you know, and he's won in St. and they had the pole and he's doing too well. He's not going to, it's going to be tough.
But has anybody ever done a press conference underwater?
Apparently not. Well, one guy.
Just one guy.
This guy.
How much fun was that?
It was awesome. I mean, I'm such a fish at heart, and like I just love getting in the water any chance I get, and this whole Indy Car driver gig is like a lot of work.
It is, right?
So I don't actually get as much time to do that as I'd like. So when I could find a way to kind of mix the two together, that was pretty cool.
All right, biggest challenge with this new car, what do you think it will be on this track?
I think it's going to be great. You know, we obviously had a record number of passes on track in St. Pete. This is a similar style, obviously, with the street circuit. I think it even has more passing opportunities than St. Pete does normally. So if we had that in St. Pete, I can only hope that we're going to have just as good a race, if not better, here.
Is the setup very different from last year's car?
It really is, yeah, for us, which is unfortunate. You know, it seems to be our luck. We had a really good Texas car in 2016, so they paved and reprofiled the whole track. And then we had a really good Long Beach car in 17, and brand new race car. So it all kind of goes out the window. But it's the same for everyone. And we had a good car in St. Pete, obviously. Robbie got pole, should have won the race. We were up there in the top 5. So cautiously optimistic, but at the same time, because the car's new, everybody's learning in big steps right now. You know, you're finding big chunks. That's going to take till the end of the year before those kind of margins get a little smaller. So expect on any given weekend a team that maybe you didn't see running as well the week before to make that big leap, and we've got to keep making our leaps if we want to stay up front.
You know, talking about your teammate and just Schmidt-Peterson family, so has worked out so well for you. What is it about that? It's
people, you know what I mean? I mean, that's the key to motorsports. It's the key to all sports, really. It's the key to business. It's the key to a lot of things is the people you surround yourself with. And, you know, we did a big overhaul of the team internally last year over the off season. Brought in new people, whether it was the engineering department, the mechanics, commercial, drivers, everything. We really did a complete overhaul, and it brought some challenges, especially in a year when you're trying to learn a new car and kind of start from scratch on that. But just huge credit to everybody in the team. It's been a lot of hard work, a lot of long hours, a lot of late nights, a lot of days not off that should have been off. But we're all after the same thing, and that's winning Indy Car races. And, you know, 2 weeks in a row, we put ourselves in a position to do that.
You're kind of the veteran now. What's it like to race with a lot of younger guys?
It's awesome. You know, they push, and they're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and we can send them off to do all the things that we don't like doing anymore because they still think it's fun. And no, it's cool. It's kind of a nice transition, you know. And in Robbie, it's kind of the best of both worlds, my new teammate, because rookie to the Indy Car Series, fine, but not a rookie in any other sense. Massively talented, massively experienced in professional motorsports. So it's been a nice mix.
Now this year, the Indy Car Series and Major League Baseball had a chance to introduce 2 very special athletes from Japan. Angel sensation Shohei Otani and, of course, the current Indy 500 winner, Takuma Sato, had a chance to meet at the Big A. Here's more. Now, as you can see, there's been quite a lot of media interest in Shohei Otani. In fact, last month, while I was in spring training, I had a chance to sit down with the baseball pro Doug Hughes as we talked all things Otani. It is going to be interesting to see the impact of Otani. I'm rooting for this guy because he's 23 years old and he's excited about pitching, he's excited about hitting, and all these fans are just excited to see him play.
Well, I've analyzed this guy. I've watched him now pitch for a while and hit for a while, and to me, he's a pitcher. He's a great pitcher. He has an unusual build for a baseball player. You don't
Very
see
tall,
wiry, thin, strong. In history, I can only think of a few off the top of my head that were like that. Andre Dawson was built that way.
Right.
Von Hayes, Scott Van Slyke's dad, Andy Van Slyke. They're not as stocky, so he's wispy, he's loose. His stuff is amazing. His pitching stuff is amazing. They tried to liken him to somebody, and he's like Jonathan Papelbon, the closer, but he can go 8 innings for you. He has gas. He can bring it 93, 94, 95, 96. He's thrown over 100 a couple times. And he lasts for you. He's young and strong enough that he can last. So he is a pitcher.
Well, we've also heard that his schedule will be a little bit different. Of course, a 6-man rotation here at the Angels, and then he'll pitch one day, but the day before and the day after, he will not hit. So he'll have the 2 days of rest or preparation, I guess. And then so we'll probably see him hit maybe 3 or 4 days a week. Probably 3.
This is crazy to me. It's outside the box. So I'm a dinosaur like everybody else my age who's watched baseball.
But it's exciting, isn't it?
You can't hit and pitch.
Oh, he's just too old.
And you have I go back to the days of the 4-man rotation. I'm still carping about the 5-man.
I thought you were going to say go back to Hank Aaron. I'm like, you're not that old, Doug. Come on now.
Well, and people used to throw complete games all the time. Sandy Koufax, I always come back to his last year. He finished 27-9 his last year with 27 complete games.
Well, and Don Newcomb will tell you that he pitched back-to-back games in one day. He's like, these guys are too soft.
Yeah,
too soft.
But they're getting a lot more use out of arms. They got a lot more use out of arms in the old days. So now it's to me, the idea of pitching and then trying to hit on the off days is crazy. What's the solution to that? A 6-man rotation. Oh no, a 6-man rotation. How will that possibly work? And we've been talking to people about it, and the other starters are saying that's not so bad. The extra day's rest. No problem.
I'll take it. Not only that, but a lot of the starters last year, they did have some physical injuries. So this is going to give them more time to recover and a little bit more time to rest.
The place where it's going to hurt, and no one's going to say it out loud, is your individual stats. It's going to be harder for any of these guys to get a 20-game win season.
But would you rather have a 20-game season, win season, or would you rather have maybe a World Series ring?
I mean, it depends on who you ask, Maria. The answer, of course, is World Series ring. But if you hook some guys up to one of those lie detector things, they'd say, I want the 20 wins. I want to go to the All-Star game. Those guys are going to take a little hit. The stat seekers are going to take a little hit.
You know, it's interesting, too, because Otani's learning how to speak English, and as we've talked to some of the players, they're learning a little bit of Japanese, so, they know how to connect with him. In the locker room, it was interesting because they're all joking around with him. They're at his locker, he's at their locker, so I'm like, they understand each other.
I think it's so cute they're doing that. The international etiquette when you travel or live abroad is you speak to a person in their language. If you're in Italy, I learned to speak Italian. I speak to the guys there in Italian. They learn English. They speak to me. And these guys are doing it. You don't see professional athletes make this kind of effort very often. Part of it's this guy's really good. He's going to be here a while. And they seem to like him.
Well, you know what? They're very welcoming in this locker room. I can tell you that behind the scenes moment. I mean, really, they are. It's like I feel like I'm in somebody's backyard when I'm in that locker room. It's very warm, very welcoming. They're not offering me any barbecue, but it's still very welcoming.
Maria, that's earlier this morning. You got lost. You were in somebody's backyard.
I was, right?
I know what you're saying.
But that's important, I think. People don't know about that, but it's important.
Well, it's cute. This team seems more human to me for some reason. The hanging out with people, the more we interview people, instead of I'm just seeing the ball good, I'm hitting the ball good.
Yeah.
I want to help the team. Hopefully, we get to the World Series if things fall into place. I'm not getting that stuff. We're getting people are talking because there's a lot going on. There's new players. You have a new Japanese player who's going 2 ways, 6-man rotation. There's a lot going on, and people are talking about it.
And I think Grace is our new best friend because she is the interpreter. She's also working with the media, and I've been talking to her, asking her questions about the Japanese culture, about certain words to say to him, which is really helpful, and it's really a learning experience for all of us.
Yeah, Japanese, it's a tricky language. I don't know much about it, but you have to get the tone right, and it's really easy to insult someone's mom when you're trying to compliment them.
Well, that would be bad.
It happens.
And we did learn that from Takashi Saito, from Kenta Maeda. I mean, Russell Martin told me a story once about something that happened to him when he went to try to help a player. So all in good jest. It's fun, but it's definitely a learning curve.
We are both biting back the stories we have of
So funny.
horrible linguistic faux pas.
Yes. But interesting because, again, he's going to learn English. So after a while, we're all going to understand each other a little bit better.
I hope so. Can't we all get along, people?
You know, the one I feel a little bit sorry for, not sorry for, but talking about a learning curve, is Mike Sosha, because he's got media in Spanish, in English, and now in Japanese.
Poor Mike spent a lot of time, and Mike is my age. He grew up in the next town over. He's also a dinosaur like me. He's gone out of his way to learn Spanish, which is hard.
Yeah, no.
And he did it as an adult, which is super hard. And now people are saying, "Hey, Mike, you're going to learn Japanese." And, oh my God, I'm the longest tenured manager in baseball. I have to learn Japanese.
Yeah, one more year on your contract, Mike, but you're going to have to learn to speak Japanese.
Get on it, big man.
Now, Shohei Otani is not the only Angel off to a very good start. In fact, all of the guys are off to a good start, including this one, Zach Cozart. I had a chance to catch up with Zach, who talks about what it's like to be an Angel. All right, we are here with Zach Cozart. You are the new kid on the block. What's it been like to be in the Angels locker room so far?
It's been great. It's a good group of guys. Everybody wants to work hard. You can tell that everybody wants to win. And that's one of the main reasons I picked here. You know, it was enticing to go to a team that was putting everything on the line to win.
And you also are switching positions from short to third. How's that going? And what are the biggest things you have to kind of relearn or learn?
Yeah, it's going well. It gets easier every day. It's definitely different. I've played short literally my whole life, from like 8 years old. So it's a change, but I feel comfortable. You know, it's just going to take more and more game experience just to get more and more comfortable, get different types of plays out there. The ball comes off the bat a little different than shortstop, but I feel pretty good over there.
What are the biggest adjustments for you as a position player to learn third?
I think the positioning aspect of it, the way the ball comes off the bat's different than shortstop. The top spin, they're different angle throws. It's just an angles game, you know. It's a little different than shortstop, but the ball comes at you quicker, obviously. Yeah. But if you catch it at third, you have so much time to make the throws. That's where it's different in shortstop too. So I'm getting used to it.
Yeah. How many guys did you already know in here, or any?
I had played versus a good bit of them, so I knew them just in passing. Being in the National League, you know, you don't play too many games versus these guys, so. Obviously, I knew Maldi, played versus him when he was with the Brewers. There's some guys, you know, that I know, but it's definitely, you know, different being in a new locker room.
Yeah, well, of course, we're asking everybody, how much Japanese have you learned so far, Zach?
I haven't learned any at all.
You're in trouble. I hate to tell you.
I say good morning, and that's about all I got for them.
It's interesting because they're changing some things with the 6-man rotation, and you sort of have maybe something new that you're trying out. What's your feeling about that? But a guy who's a pitcher and a hitter.
Yeah, you know, if anybody can do it, I feel like he can. I've been impressed the way he handles himself. Yes. He's real calm, seems relaxed. And I don't, you know, pay attention to spring training, you know, stats or, you know, he's trying to get in the groove with a new team, a new country. So there's a lot of pressure on him. So I feel like people need to kind of relax a little bit. You know, he's going to be fine. He's using spring training just like everybody else. You know, if Kershaw gives up 5 runs, no, it's not a big deal. It's spring training. But if Otani does, it's like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. So I feel like he's going to be just fine. He's got to get comfortable out here, and I think he is. And I'm looking forward to seeing him do it.
Everybody kind of forgets somebody's first year anyway. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a whole new culture for him, and it's you know, it's hard being on one side of the ball, much less trying to concentrate on 2 different things. So I've just been really impressed with him. He's handled it well.
Speaking of different cultures, how much time have you spent in Southern California?
Not a lot at all.
We're gonna have to help you out a little bit then.
I played there, I think 2 years ago, interleague, and then I've been out there for a day for my physical. So not a lot of time, but I hear Orange County is real relaxed, and the weather's beautiful, so I'm looking forward to that.
And we will bring you lots of new faces from the Angels, as well as a few old favorites coming up on the next episode of Playing the Field. Now, the NFL season might still be a few months away, but of course, I always want to talk NFL football. And the Los Angeles Rams have been very busy making some moves to elevate their roster. And of course, none bigger than the Ndamukong Suh was signed with the Rams last week as he's a new member of the Ramily.
What we wanted to do, because Ndamukong did have choices, was bring him in and let him meet with Sean, our staff, and just make sure, guess what, it's a fit. And because anytime someone has options, you want them to be jacked about the option that they pick, and we wanted to bring him in and meet him, get to know him, and show him what we're about, and get to know what he's about.
I started out playing defensive end in high school. Moving into college, I played a lot of 3 technique, 2 technique, played some shade as well. And then over the last probably 5 years or so, between Miami and Detroit, to get me out of double teams and kind of being in the trash, I played every single position, every single technique that's really possible, and sometimes we even created our own.
When he came in, very thorough. He asked great questions. You know, you could see that he had done his homework on the people in the building, the system. He was familiar with some of the things that Wade and our coaching staff on defense had done. Wanted to see kind of what we envision for him as far as his role is, and that's something that, like he's mentioned, is to be determined. You know, we feel like there's a starting point, but I think when you have good players, like we've mentioned, you know, that have some position flex, you know, if there's one thing that Coach Wade and Coach Johnson and our defensive staff do an excellent job of, it's finding a way to put our players in good spots and get those matchups that we want across the board. And specific to the pass rush, now being able to add a player of his caliber with the, you know, in addition to some of the other guys we already have on board, you know, it's an exciting challenge for us as coaches. And, you know, that's what you want to hear that he mentioned from the very beginning, is it's about one day at a time. Let's focus on just continuous improvement, developing a standard, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Needless to say, head coach Sean McVay and defensive coordinator Wade Phillips will have a lot of new big personalities in that locker room. Now, NBA basketball certainly has a very rich history here in Los Angeles, and there's one man who has been photographing it all. Andy Bernstein has been a photojournalist in Los Angeles for many, many years, and I had a chance to catch up with him. Here's more. So many questions I want to talk to you about today, but I want to start back in Brooklyn, New York, where you grew up. Tell me when you first fell in love with sports.
Wow, I fell in love with sports as far back as I can remember. I was playing street hockey as a kid, stickball. We were playing football on concrete in the snow. You know, this is how I grew up in Brooklyn. Played Little League baseball on a field that had no grass. It was all just like gravel and glass, actually. But my real love for sports actually came through my dad. My family of Brooklyn Dodger fans, diehard from the beginning of time. And when I came along, I was actually born in '58, which was the year the Dodgers moved, which the whole family grieved. They didn't grieve me being born, actually. They grieved the move of the Dodgers. But I became a Mets fan because I was prohibited from even mentioning the word Yankee, much less bring a Yankee baseball card into my house, which I made that mistake once, and my dad promptly ripped up my prized Mickey Mantle card. It's a true story. But my dad had season tickets for the Rangers for years.
You went to school and you studied photography. When did you sort of realize that's what you wanted to do?
Well, when I was 14, my dad bought me a camera, and we made a trip out west to all the national parks out west, and I really took to photography very quickly there. And my dad encouraged me, and my mom did too. In high school, I went to a very big high school in Brooklyn, and we had a monthly newspaper, and we had a yearbook, and I became the photo editor of both of those. A friend of mine had a darkroom in his basement, so I learned all that darkroom stuff with him. And when I went to University of Massachusetts, I took that love for photography with me. So that's how my love for sports really evolved, and it melded with my love for photography.
And so when was your first professional job shooting sports, pro sports?
Wow, that goes really back a long time, Maria. I had just gotten out of Art Center, College of Design. In fact, I don't even know if I was quite out yet, but I think it was either in my last term or just as I graduated. And I got a call from a guy from the LA Aztecs, which was the long-defunct North American Soccer League soccer team. And it was the same league that the Cosmos played in and Pele and all the greats. and they needed a photographer. I don't even think they paid me, honestly. Maybe they paid me a couple of bucks. But they played at the Rose Bowl. I lived in Pasadena. I built a darkroom in my garage in this little teeny
Back in
apartment.
the day when we used dark rooms, huh?
Yeah, and I would shoot something and run home, process the film, print all night, deliver it to the guy in the morning. And that really kind of got my feet wet as a team photographer, which was kind of a new thing for me. And one thing led to the next, and all of a sudden I was working for the USFL team, the LA Express.
Steve Young.
Yeah, Steve Young. That was a lot of fun. And then the Dodgers came calling in '84, and I hooked up with the NBA officially in '86 and became their first official photographer in 1986 and helped build NBA photos, which was great. And, you know, the other teams kind of fell in, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Kings, then the Sparks came later on. Now my company is responsible for 8 teams in the LA area. So Lakers, Clippers, Kings, Sparks, the new LAFC, the Los Angeles Football Club, and the 2 G League teams. The Lakers and Clippers have G League teams, and we do a lot of photography for the Ontario Reign.
You know, you talk about going back into the 80s when you first started in pro ball. You're the longest tenured photographer anywhere. Did you ever think that would happen?
Well, I never thought I'd hear those words described for me, longest tenure, because to me that just means old as heck.
Still there.
Yeah, no, I'm really proud of that, and I still love what I do, and that's the most important thing.
What do you think is the secret to being able to sustain it this long?
You got to love what you do. You got to love getting in the car and going to a game, even if it's a quote-unquote meaningless game or just, you know, a run-of-the-mill game. Who cares? I mean, it's a game, and I got that work ethic from my dad, but I also got it from Magic Johnson. I watched him very early in my career. We were essentially rookies together. And I watched him come to work every single game. And he talks about how his dad had 2 jobs. And he'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and he would work on a garbage truck. Then he would go to his next job. Then he'd come home. And Magic took that from him, from East Lansing, and brought it to LA. And I just saw that from the get-go with him, that from preseason to any game in the middle of the season to a playoff game, an NBA Finals game, a Dream Team game, it didn't really matter. He was bringing the lunch pail every time, and that really influenced me.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because as a photojournalist, you have to be in their face, but not in their face to really, you know, not to hinder, you know. You have to have that sort of that ease, and you have that. John Suhu has that. The players trust you. How do you build that trust?
Well, Maria hit the nail on the head. It is about trust, and it's about relationships first and foremost. Right. You know, you can be the greatest photographer in the world, and I am not. There are other guys that are much better than I am. And I think John would probably say the same thing because he's probably the most humble guy I ever met. But if you don't have the personality for it, and the subjects or the team or the personnel, whoever it is, the front office, they don't trust you, or you make it about you instead of your job and doing what you're paid to do, but also being a good guy to be around. You know, I just love the camaraderie. I love the relationships. I love being part of it. I love being a fly on the wall. You know, that's why I was attracted to John from the beginning, and you know, the universe brought us together. It was officially actually Steve Brenner who brought us together. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. But you know, John is that kind of guy too. Never makes it about himself, and I try not to. Also, I try to hang out in the background. I try to become part of the wallpaper. You know, so if I'm covering Kobe, for example, for 20 years, he's going to get to know me to the point where he doesn't even see me with a camera.
I'm not going to ask you what your favorite picture is, but one that you saw afterward, you thought, "Wow, that was just a cool moment."
Oy, that's yeah. I mean, we're talking about, you know, Kirk Gibson's legendary home run in '88. How many Kobe buzzer beaters did I shoot? You know, Michael Jordan hugging the trophy, crying with his first trophy in '91 with his dad next to him. Magic and Bird. The Michael Jordan Come Fly With Me, that probably is one of my, for the criteria that you just mentioned, that was probably one that I just hoped that I got, because in those days, we shot on film. So it wasn't like, the immediate gratification of pushing a button on the preview, and boom, there it is. So there's a whole story involved with that, but had to drive to New York. That was taken in Springfield, Massachusetts, in some meaningless, preseason game, and get the film developed in the middle of the night and hope it was on there, and it was very dramatic.
And join us on our next episode of Playing the Field, where you will see part 2 of Andy Bernstein's interview, where he sits down with Will Lupartis and shows us some of his very famous shots. Well, back here in Long Beach, one of the fan favorite drivers, of course, is Graham Rahal. Now, I had a chance to sit down with Graham, who talks about the new car.
The new car is quite a bit different, so it's taken some adjusting to. There's no doubt about that. But so far we haven't hit the nail on the head. But I think we're finding a direction, which is helping. So I've been pleased with that, and hopefully this weekend we can improve a little bit more.
Takuma was talking about that, saying that it was a little bit trickier, for the setup of the new cars. It seems like every year you guys have a new challenge to deal with.
You always have challenges. I mean, that's life, in general. And so this year, there's a lot of new challenges. But, it's the same for everybody. Some people have figured it out quicker than others. But I certainly hope that, like I said, here in Long Beach, we can figure it out a little bit more. And that's going to give us a little more leverage and understanding and information, data, and everything else going into Alabama next week, and then a road course in Indianapolis, and so on and so forth. So, really, yes, we're only 2 races into this thing. But from about this time on, there's no time to breathe until we get to the end of the season. And so, these are important weekends for us right now.
And of course, we will catch up with more drivers from the Indy Car Series on future episodes of Playing the Field. Now, one extremely popular driver has sort of retired from the Indy Car Series. He's going to race in sports cars full-time in 2018, and he was inducted into the Motorsports Walk of Fame here in Long Beach. Of course, we're talking about the one, the only, Elio Castroneves. We are here with Elio Castroneves, who's not retiring. He is actually in the Sports Car Series, but you are being honored today in the Walk of Fame, a place here in Long Beach that I know you love.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's great to be back again in Long Beach. Yes, people think I retired. I did not retire. I'm not racing full-time in the Car Series, but I am racing full-time IMSA. And it's cool. It's cool to be back. I'm going to first time with a different car in Long Beach, because normally it was always open wheel, and now I'm going to have a roof on top of my head, different car. But I'm excited, and not only that, but it's what a great honor to be here and be part of the motorsports legends. And I never thought that one day would happen. And wow, what a dream come true.
And it's so nice that you get to do it with one of your teammates as well.
Yeah, no, Juan Pablo and I, we know since from 1990 when we did our first World Cup in go-karts in Italy, and all these years we remain competitors, we remain friends, we remain, and now we're teammates. And how cool to be alongside with him as well. Obviously, he's been all over the world and achieved so many things. So for me, it made it even more special to have him sharing this moment with me.
Now, you're big on Instagram, and I read on Twitter as well, and I read that you said that there's lots of buttons on the new cars. Did you get them all figured out?
Not yet. You're right. It's a little bit different when you have the Instagram figured out and not your own office, let's put it this way. But it's really cool to have that many technology in the car. Acura is a phenomenal manufacturer, and work with them, it's been fantastic. So I'm super, super, super excited.
All right, so Elio, back in the car here at Long Beach this weekend, and in the Indianapolis 500 in May.
That's why I said we're not retired yet, so we're gonna go for number 4. Right. Looking forward to. So I'm wishing all the guys the best, but sorry guys, got to be the number 4.
Look out for this one. Never a dull moment with Elio, that is for sure. And remember, you can watch Playing the Field 24/7 at playingthefieldtv.com. All right, that's all we have for you today from the Long Beach Grand Prix. I'm Maria Serrao, and we'll see you next time.